You're listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
I wanna see the light.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting us share part of your day. My name is Jerry Mitchell. Sitting next to me is Myra.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad that you could be here with us tonight.
Now that you're finally here,
Yes.
we had it's not even a technical problem, just something we forgot to turn off just before we start. Like, oh, it's still on. So she jumped up to go shut that off. Anyway, we're so glad you're here. There is just a whole lot of stuff we got going on this week. It is really amazing. If you are new to us, we appreciate all of you. If you've been here with us for a while, we appreciate you too. I want to let you know about the GiveGod90.com website. More on that later, because you may want to visit that. Also, coming up on the season when people like to give gifts, books make a wonderful gift. There's Tradition to Truth, One Man's Search for Honest Answers, and there is also God's Universe, God's Rules. Should I tell them the news? You don't know? Oh, okay. Soon, I hope, it is the actual writing, I think, is complete. It's going through the editorial processes now, but Inheriting Lies, I hope, will be out sometime after the first of the year, probably towards the end of January, middle of February, maybe. So that you should look forward to that. That is some in-depth stuff, and this is going to be one of those things that should be on the desk of every seminary student.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want a I wouldn't say free, if you want a seminary degree at the cost of one book, this is going to be it. Let's just put it that way. It's in depth, in detail, but should be an easy. Is it an easy read? You've been looking for.
So far, yes.
As long as you speak English, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Excuse me. My allergies are really. We were in a store today, and our oldest granddaughter says, "Let's go smell the candles." And every time I do that,
You're messed up for a while.
It really chews on me. Don't forget, if you like what you hear today, the like buttons, the share buttons, we really appreciate all of those. Okay. Some of you may be slightly offended at what I say tonight. If you are, maybe you need to be. I'm just going to put it out there, because you need to think about this. Being a Christian is more than just being a nice person, right? Now, for our Jewish listeners, don't be turned off by the title, because there's some things here you are going to need to hear. All right, just stick with me. You'll see why. Believe it or not, according to the 2020 Census of American Religion, and everybody knows you can believe a census, right? Now, this is an independent group. So their findings is that 70% of the people living in the United States claim Christianity as their religion. And I can see, a semi-religious group, especially a Christian group, going out and saying, what religion do you profess? Now, the recent Gallup poll remains almost unchanged since 2011. And it is just over 75% claim Christianity, either Protestant, Catholic, Mormon, or other Christian denomination, as their religion. Now, that should make you ask the question, with the number of people claiming Christianity being that high, how is the United States experiencing such a poor moral decay? Why is the morality of the United States in such disarray if 3/4 of the population claim Christianity? Hey, Carol's joined us on chat. Glad to see you, Carol. By the way, that reminds me, if anybody wants to chime in, we appreciate each and every one of you doing that. If you're not listening live, you can always add a comment later in the chat. I will be notified of it, and I will try to answer you. But with the number of people, 3/4 of the population of the United States claim to be Christian, why is the morality of the United States in such disarray? Well, there's a couple of reasons, but could it be that the number of people who claim to be Christian have no idea what it means to actually be Christian? Maybe the problem begins with the people who are teaching them how to be Christian. Maybe the problem was with the people who taught them. How far back do we need to go? The whole book, in the new book that's coming out, Inheriting Lies, is based on Jeremiah 16:19. We have inherited lies from our fathers, right? That's what Jeremiah prophesied years ago, that people would actually be returning to the Creator and saying, we have inherited lies, which we have. There's no getting around that. That's for sure. Now, for our Jewish folks, again, here's some things that you might want to know, because I know you are often approached by Christians, and they want to tell you what it is to be Christian. And here's a secret for you, okay? If you happen to be Jewish, maybe you're atheist, because this is going to work with that too. And you have somebody who maybe they've been going to church for 50 years, maybe they're brand new, and they approach you. Maybe you need to turn the question around and say, what is a Christian? And then maybe quickly follow up with a question such, kind of like this. Put this in your own words, feel free, and ask them, do you want me to convert to Christianity, or do you just want me to be a member of your church? Are you just looking for church members, or are you actually actively trying to convince people to live the way their Creator designed them to live? And if you know the person, if you're really astute, you can look at the way they're dressed, you can see the different things about them. Maybe you've been next door neighbors for years. You say, I know you're not living that way, and you want me to listen to you? Put them on the spot. I'm giving you permission to put them on the spot. Because Christians, for those of you who are listening, you need to be prepared to be put on the spot. Peter tells us to be prepared to give an answer. Right? if you don't know where to find it, the books in Peter are very short. Read them both. He will tell you. You'll find it. Trust me. The reason I didn't give you the verse and chapter, because I want you to go read. Getting sneaky like that. Really, seriously though. You need to be able to convey your reason for your faith. And if the only reason you have for your faith is somebody talked you into it, that's probably not a really good reason. Modern Christians have a difficult time explaining what a Christian actually is. You know, there's an old joke about a Christian and a Jewish fella, and finally, they've been arguing for some time, and finally, oh, this is going to be terrible. But I can see this happening. I can see this happening. Finally, the Christian looks at the Jewish fella he's been arguing with and says, okay, I will concede Jesus was Jewish. But you have to give me Mary was Catholic. You can laugh out loud. They can't see your face on the radio. Think about that. I want you to think about that, because this is how Christians see the world. Not all of them, thankfully, but it's how many of them see the world. We were talking to a couple we haven't spoken to for a couple of years, just because our paths haven't crossed, really. And I didn't realize how they had grown in their faith. And it just amazed. It did my heart real good to hear. That was terrible English. It did my heart well to know and learn what these folks were thinking. And I was really impressed. I was like, wow, this person could have been the me years ago, right? When I was still in a regular Christian church. Christians want to talk a lot about the Messiah. Oh, Jesus is the Messiah. But they don't understand what a Messiah is. They don't realize that the Hebrew word Messiah simply means to be anointed. Now, you can anoint, well, let's put it this way. The very first thing in the Bible that gets anointed is a rock. Now, I could go a long way on that. But let's just say the first thing that was ever anointed in the Bible is a rock. And here is the big problem. Most of the Jewish folks that I have run across and talked to, they will readily accept that there was they didn't. His name absolutely wasn't Jesus, but Yeshua was born in Israel a couple thousand years ago, made a big splash, and they realized that he taught. If they look at the things he taught, he was teaching to obey the law of Moses. But that gets lost in Christianity, modern Christianity. That just kind of takes a back seat for some reason to, they want a savior to work some magic and do something for them. Well, it kind of works that way in a more spiritual way than magical way. But there's some lessons we need to learn here. When we think about what a Messiah is, King Saul was a Messiah. David was a Messiah. Because Samuel anointed both of them, he had the authority to do that. But when we look at the life of Yeshua, when we look at the life of Jesus, he was never anointed on earth. Now, there is a passage we get some lessons from in Luke 7, verses 36 through 47, if you want to read that for me.
One of the Pharisees asked Jesus to eat with him. Jesus went into the Pharisee's house and sat at the table. A sinful woman in the town learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house. So she brought an alabaster jar of perfume. She stood at Jesus' feet crying and began to wash his feet with her tears. She dried his feet with her hair, kissed them many times, and rubbed them with the perfume. The Pharisee who asked Jesus to come to his house saw this. He thought to himself, if Jesus were a prophet, he would know that the woman who is touching him is a sinner. Jesus said to the Pharisee, Simon, I have something to say to you. Simon said, Teacher, tell me. Jesus said, there were 2 men. Both men owed money to the same banker. One man owed the banker 500 silver coins. The other man owed the banker 50 silver coins. The men had no money, so they could not pay what they owed. But the banker told the men that they did not have to pay him. Which one of the 2 men will love the banker more? Simon the Pharisee answered, I think it would be the one who owed him the most money. Jesus said to Simon, you are right. Then Jesus turned toward the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? When I came into your house, you gave me no water for my feet, but she washed my feet with her tears and dried my feet with her hair. You did not kiss me, but she has been kissing my feet since I came in. You did not rub my head with oil, but she rubbed my feet with perfume. I tell you that her many sins are forgiven. This is clear because she showed great love. But the person who has only a little to be forgiven will feel only a little love.
There are many more lessons in this than just about anointment. But that's what we're going to concentrate on tonight. A lot of English Bible translations will give a heading for this passage as the anointment of Jesus. But it can't be. There is a huge problem. When you anoint someone or something, it is for a specific purpose. There's no specific purpose mentioned in this lesson. Also, if you anoint someone, you are authorized to anoint someone by various methods. Okay, the person who is being anointed can give you that authorization. If you read the story about Samuel anointing David, you see that he had permission to do that. There's a lot of things that go with it, but to keep it as simple as possible, the woman here did not have the authority to anoint him. And we even see that the one who actually did, the person who owned the house, didn't anoint him, right? He said, you didn't rub my head with oil, but this woman has not stopped with the feet. So there is a very, very, very good reason that Yeshua could not have been anointed on earth. One is, like I said, nobody really had the authority on earth to do that. The other is, it would have destroyed the shadow picture that we have been given for the final king of Israel. So, we don't, by forcing our ideas and our concepts sometimes we distort the very things that we're looking for. We need to be more attentive when we do that. It's amazing that Christians today don't understand what it means to be a Christian, and part of that reason is they don't understand where that faith comes from. The faith is founded in the Hebrew. Some of the traditions, yes, but mostly in the things and the lessons that we read about in the Old Testament, just like the anointments. If you don't know what it is to be anointed, and you don't realize that, the only thing that a Messiah means is that, somebody with authority poured some oil over your head. Well, that doesn't magically make you anything other than greasy, right? Because, olive oil is messy and expensive, so you didn't waste it. If you want to be a Christian, it takes more than just filling in the blank on a census form. It takes more than answering a survey question. There's more to it. You can, nice people, really nice people, are not all Christian, and not all Christians are nice people, right? We've worked for one that wasn't real nice. The weird thing is, and I'm not sure exactly where the disconnect is, other than in what modern Christian churches are teaching, or not teaching, I should say. There are people who can name one or two miracles that Yeshua did, but most can't tell you a single thing that he taught. Love your neighbor is a really nice concept, but it wasn't anything new. And before you can love your neighbor, who is it that you have to love? You. Myers just pointed to herself. You need to love the Father. Maybe we should go back to doing the live video thing so people can see your reactions here. If we look at Matthew 22, 34 through 40. Can you stop laughing long enough to do this? Mm-hmm. Okay. We're gonna see something kind of amazing here that you may not have ever noticed before.
The Pharisees learned that the Sadducees could not argue with Jesus' answers to them. So the Pharisees met together. One Pharisee was an expert in the law of Moses. That Pharisee asked Jesus a question to test him. The Pharisee asked, "Teacher, which command in the law is the most important?" Jesus answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. This is the first and most important command. And the second command is like the first. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the writings of the prophets depend on these two commands."
All right. Okay. Yes, I got the look. The prayer that every Hebrew person wakes up with and goes to sleep with is called the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad. Hear, O Israel, Yehovah our God is one. Isn't that amazing? And what was Yeshua's answer? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. That is in that, I think that's the next line of that prayer, right? If he would have said anything other than what he said, the Pharisees and even the disciples would have had a good reason to question his intentions. A really good reason to question his intentions. But by answering the way he did, first with the very thing that they wake up and go to sleep with, the very thing that every, how do I want to say this? Dedicated, I guess is a good word, Hebrew person would wake up and go to sleep with. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. Comes right out of Deuteronomy. The one thing that they do every day. And then he goes a little farther. He said, by the way, the second one comes from Leviticus 19:18. You will not avenge or bear grudge against any of the children of the people. You will love your neighbor as yourself. And by the way, that verse ends with, I am Yehovah. For the Christian who's been taught that Jesus made any new commandments, they have been taught wrong. Here's where I get to beat up on some of our modern day, well, some of the Pharisees and some of our modern day preachers. If Yeshua had even tried to make any new rules or regulations, they would have rejected him. And he knew it. The Pharisees made up new rules all the time. And it's the thing that he spoke aggressively about. Said, you can't be doing this. In fact, he gets so angry in Matthew 23 at what's going on. He says, let's just read Matthew 23, 1 through 4. And then I'll tell you what it really says.
Then Jesus spoke to the crowds and to his disciples. The scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So practice and observe everything they tell you. But do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy, burdensome loads and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them.
Just a side note, in the United States, they're called politicians. Because what our Congress does is they will make laws for everybody else, and then they will exempt themselves from those laws. That's what's going on here. When it says that they sit in Moses' seat, in the synagogues of the day, 2,000 years ago, there was a seat, and it was considered the seat of Moses. And the Pharisee or the rabbi, the ruler of that synagogue or congregation, however you want to, fellowship, however you want to describe it, that assembly, would sit there and judge. And what Yeshua is saying is you sit in Moses' seat, but you're not doing what Moses said to do. And he turns and he looks at the crowd and he says, don't worry about what the Pharisees say. You just do what Moses has written for you to do. And then he storms out of the place. And, the disciples try to calm him down a little bit, and he's angry. He's just confronted the Pharisees for one of the last times. And he's just told everybody within earshot, everybody who could hear him, don't worry about what the Pharisees say. You just do what Moses said to do, or actually wrote down to do. Every Hebrew gospel manuscript of Matthew, and now there are several that have been, I don't want to say discovered or uncovered. They knew they were around but they just didn't realize how many were around. And they didn't realize how accurate most of them were. There's some variations in some places, but in this particular one, there is no variation. Your preachers today in your Christian churches will sit or stand and they will tell you, how you should live. But they don't live according to what they represent. If you're a Christian and you want to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, do the things that Moses writes for us to do. In fact, if you happen to be Jewish or Hebrew today, that same advice applies to you. If you want to be a good believer, just do the things Moses writes for us to do. You need to follow the Creator's instructions. By the way, that means if you do that, you're going to live the way you're designed to live. For the Christian, it only claims, this is going to sound bad, and it's pointing fingers, yes. For the Christian, it only claims Christianity for the convenience of it. You need to understand something. You're not a Christian. You're probably not even a believer. Well, you might believe. You might acknowledge that there's some supreme force out there, maybe. But you probably don't live that way, do you? Even if you're a believer, there's more involved. If you claim the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, there's more involved than just, oh yeah, I believe. James said, the demons believe and they're terrified because they know what's coming. If you want to have a relationship with your Creator, if you want to have that close personal relationship that is being pushed so hard in Christian churches today, you need to do more than just claim, yeah, I'm a Christian. The Almighty wants to be involved in your entire life, not just when things are going wrong. And you should be willing to live as though you are a representative of His glory and His word, not your glory and your word. It means more than just claiming faith of some system of belief. It actually means living that lifestyle that reflects the Creator's values, not your own values. Now, if you need some help understanding how to do that, well, we can help you with that. If you go to givegod90.com, you can learn how to live that lifestyle. In fact, one of the first things you learn how to do is wake up every morning in prayer and go to bed every night in prayer. And guess what that prayer happens to be? Yeah. Hear, O Israel. Hear, believer. Lord your God is one. And, you probably, I hope, never heard me say, other than when I'm explaining that I don't say this, that the world's going to end tomorrow. Okay? That's not what we're here for. I'm more involved, I hope, in your lives, not just in the United States, but around the world than that. I want to make sure that you're doing the things you need to do today so that if something did happen tomorrow, whether the world ends or whether you leave this world tomorrow, whether the world ends without you or whether you end without the world, right? That you can be sure when you next time you open your eyes, it's going to be where you want to be and not where you don't want to be. And there's a couple of ways you can be assured of that. One of the things you do is you go to Give God 90 and you start doing that, and in 90 days you should have enough information that you can continue. Your life should improve enough that you can just keep going. And, you know, if you are affected positively by that and you want to help spread that word, you can help spread the word, and you don't even have to do anything other than hit the share button, right? Share that web page, that address to your social media pages. It'll get out there. It'll get out there, and more people would do exactly what the folks who are listening have done. And they, you know, put it out there, and people listen. And if they're blessed by it, they keep listening, and they ask questions, and they buy books and other things. Because there's more on that website. You know, there's a couple of different things on that website that help support what we do. You know, some of my photographs, or actually the link to my photograph page is on there, where you can buy wall art. You can buy notepads and cards and stickers and shower curtains. I mean,
Baby
onesies, phone cases, all kinds of stuff. Bags. Their bags are really nice, by the way. A friend of ours had a bag done. Another friend of ours has one of our prints on a canvas printed. That one I like that one. But there's all kinds of ways you can support it. Zero Shoes, you know, we're an affiliate for Zero Shoes. If you go through our website and go to their website, follow the link, if you actually buy a pair of their shoes, we get a kickback. That's just another thing you can do, something you might want to wear. You know, we have all kinds of ways that you don't have to spend any extra money to help us. But the best way is just to share the things you hear. You know, share it, you know, put the website out there. Most everybody today has a social media page of some type, right? Just about everybody. Chances are you heard about this podcast from one of those pages. So share it. Get it out there. Share the podcast. Share the links. We appreciate each and every one of you that do that, because there's a lot of you doing it. When I look at the number of downloads that we have, and the number of listens, and and where they're from, there's people listening, because I have enough trouble speaking English. Okay, y'all heard that earlier, right? I have enough trouble speaking English that for me to speak another language is tough. But there's people listening in places that I can't pronounce. And I apologize for not being able to pronounce where you might live, but there's people that listen to this in places that I don't have any idea. I can come close, but I'm not going to butcher some of those names. I don't want to offend anybody that bad. And we appreciate each and every one of you doing that. And the way that happens is you folks out there just, say, you know what, this was kind of neat. I'm going to put this out there on my post, my profile, whatever it happens to be, depending on what social media you're using, and get it out there. One of the things that I didn't want to do with this particular podcast, with this message, was really point fingers at any individual, because it's not. It is the way that the modern church is portraying Christianity. It's almost like, come join our club, right? I mean, they've stopped teaching the foundation of the faith, and instead of giving you the reasons that Peter's going to describe, if you go read Peter, when he says, be prepared to give an answer, instead of teaching you how to be prepared to give an answer, they're just kind of, wouldn't you like to join our club? There's a lot of church members out there that have no idea what it is to be Christian. And that's kind of sad. Because not that long ago, most people actually did know. Well, I say not long ago. 150 years ago or so. And that's really not that long ago. But until you start reading, until you start digging, until you start searching, can you really consider yourself a Christian? Or are you just a member? If you think being a member of a club is going to get you where you want to go, you need to do the digging. Right? Because I'm just going to say, most people who start out going to church they start out because somebody that they trusted said, why don't you come listen to my preacher? Why don't you come to my church, right? And then they realize, they're saying things that I can't find in this book called the Bible. Maybe they're doing things that this book says don't do. And they get disillusioned. Don't get disillusioned. Find out what the real truth is. It's not that hard to understand. And because it's not that hard to understand, then once you realize that even the people that you trusted could be wrong, you're going to find out that what's in the Bible is never wrong. It's just the way we happen to be reading it that's wrong. Sometimes the translations are bad. Sometimes the explanations are poor. Sometimes it's just because people are trying to guess at what it says instead of digging to find out what it really says. Don't be afraid of it. But figure out what it means to you and why you believe the way you believe. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. We appreciate all of you. Until today's Thursday, right? So till Monday morning. Many blessings, everyone.